Everybody ready? That's it? Council agenda, Township Parsippany-Troy Hills, Township Council agenda meeting for October 6, 2016.
Posting of notice. Adequate notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Law by filing the notice in the office of the Township Clerk and by posting the meeting notice on the bulletin board at the Municipal Building on September 28, 2016, where it has remained posted since that date. A legal notice appeared in the Daily Record on September 30, 2016, and was forwarded by fax to other local newspapers and radio stations on September 28, 2016. Council meetings are videotaped and aired on Cablevision, Public Access Channel 21 at 11 o'clock a.m. on Sundays, and are also available for viewing at www.parsippany.net.
Everyone, please stand for flag salute. Mr. Cricky.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Carriffy?
Here.
Mr. DePiero?
Here.
Ms. Grignani?
Present.
Mr. Peluso?
Present.
Mr. Valori?
Here.
Also in attendance are Mayor James Barbario, Business Administrator Ellen Sandman, CFO Ann Cucci, Township Attorney John Inglesino, and Township Clerk Colette Madden. Mr. President, we have a quorum. You may begin.
Thank you. Our upcoming meetings will be October 18th. That will be our regular meeting at 7:30. And the following one will be November 1st at 7:30. That will be our agenda meeting. Approval of minutes.
The minutes will be on for next meeting for the previous 3 meetings.
Outstanding. Presentation and reports. Mayor?
I have nothing for tonight. Oh, wait, excuse me, I do.
Insurance.
Insurance, yeah. Thank you, Robert.
Happens to the best of us, okay?
Sorry, I called you guys in for nothing. Yes, please come up. That's the parsippany-troy and Graham. It has to do with the third-party administrator.
Okay, great.
I'm going to stand as they're getting ready to present. One of the commitments, we don't make promises, we make commitments to both the council and the residents and also our employees. One of the commitments we made, we said, if our third-party payer, IDA, did not live up to its agreement with us, we would be back to you. This evening we are back, and we are going to have a presentation by the Grahams to talk to the issues of why it is time now to move on to another third-party payer. One of the reasons is we never really were comfortable with the SOC report that we talked about, the insurance. That's very, very important for us to have that. Secondly, and even just as important, when somebody is in need and they go to the doctors, okay, yes, there were some issues with the using the wrong card, but there were a lot more reasons for not payment on time, payment and also doing damage to people's credit. So this evening we said we would do this, and it's time that we are. And I think we'll have, we've just turned this in from lemons to lemonade, and I think you're going to hear a win-win situation, not only for our members that utilize the insurance of our self-insured, but the council can feel comfortable with a new number that will be it's very aggressive in a positive way for savings, but I don't want to take any more of your thunder. So I want to thank the mayor for working at immediately giving Mr. Graham a call and saying, it's time. We've met with them 3 different times, and they would improve, but never to the point where we needed them to improve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Councilman Ryan Graham, Fairview Insurance. So if you can look into the PowerPoint slide, I just have a few slides I'd like to go through real quick, and that kind of gives a summary and overview of what we've looked into. So if you flip to the first page, what we have here is we looked at various administrators. We looked at your incumbent administrator, which is IDA. We looked at Meritain, which is owned by US Healthcare.
Okay.
We looked at UMR, which is owned by United Healthcare. So as you see, we had the pricing over here. IDA was the highest in price. UMR was the lowest. I'm sorry, Meritain was the lowest at $475,000 versus $624,000 a year. I'd like to flip to the next slide. As we see, we have services that, basically a general overview about the services that the TPAs provide. They all provide similar services. However, Meritain and UMR both provided more additions to the employees. For example, there is a 24/7 nurse hotline that employees can use, independents and so forth, or any type of medical issues after hours that they can't go to the ER, don't want to go to the ER. They have a company called Teledoc that is contracted with Meritain. That is where you can actually speak to a doctor. They can prescribe you medications, look into your symptoms, and give you a medication at the pharmacy or something like that for after-hour purposes and things of that nature. It's a very nice feature. There's no copay associated with that to the employees, and it's a very nice benefit. And actually, you're not paying for a claim if they do use that service for an office visit. Again, UMR provides the same features as well, but again, I'm going to stay focused on Meritain since they actually provided the lowest cost, and that actually will be the recommendation I'm going to go with. I'd like to flip to the next page. We did a network comparison of the doctors that the employees use and the doctors that are not used. And as you see over here, there are roughly 1,400 doctors that are used in network with IDA. With Meritain, we're going to gain significantly in network utilization, and that's over 1,700 doctors that will now be in network. So there is some minor disruption where we would lose some doctors by leaving the AmeriHealth network and the CHN network, but it's very minor, but we gain so much more. I'm going to flip to the next page. This is really where you're going to, aside from the administration fees, this is where you get your biggest cost savings. As you see with discounts. So what IDA is, they're a third-party administrator that contracts with various networks. AmeriHealth is the main network that is used. Any doctors are not within AmeriHealth, they use CHN as a wrap. That's for out-of-state, things of that nature. As you'll see, the discount for CHN for a claim is 55%. With that English Healthcare, it's nearly 65%. So I'm gaining that much more. So I'm gaining more doctors in network. I'm getting a better discount with that English Healthcare, which adds more savings back to the township. And as you see with UMR, the reason why, not just for the administration fees that are higher, the discount is less than at English Healthcare by almost 5%. So that's a big number in claims. If you think you have $10 million in claims, 5% is $500,000. So that's what we're talking about over here. And that's just basically the general overview of what we did from an analysis standpoint from your TPAs. The reinsurance, we're still in the process of marketing. So as you know, since we're self-insured, there's multiple parts. You have the third-party administrator that adjudicates claims. You have the network, and then we have the reinsurance. So what we've done up front is analyze your third-party administrator, what their fees were, the networks that are used, and the claim discounts that are provided back to the township, which generates savings to you.
And how long would this contract be with this particular?
It would be in effect on January 1st for 12 months.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Now, do you see a lot of other insurance companies moving the same way?
Yeah, I can say, since Chapter 78 came into play, employees definitely take notice to their paycheck and the what's provided to them, and this will actually provide a cost savings and lesser Chapter 78 contributions to the employee. I could say my personal experience with Meritain, they do a very good job. We have them in the Township of Irvington. I know other places they're in, such as Tom's River Board of Education, they do a very good job there, too.
Okay, it's a large district, too. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
I just have one question. I know as a county employee, whenever they were talking about switching insurances and stuff like that, the big question is equal to or better than. This appears on this chart with these services that you offer. It seems better. But I just want to I'm looking out for our town employees. I want to make sure that this is equal to or better than what they have.
Great question.
Before you answer that, I just want to just say that that's why the gentlemen are in the back. We called up all the union representatives and asked them to come out today.
Okay.
So that they would hear that.
Great.
And
Well, I just asked you guys.
yes, he was thinking about you.
Okay.
But we have both the, Theobald is representing both, George couldn't make it,
Right.
and then we have John, and we have, Don. So we have a good representation here,
Right.
as well as some of the people that work for us who are of the white collar, who also are affected by this. So I know
Yes.
Jane came out to hear that. So I'm going to turn it over to you to say.
Thank you.
I know, and I hope that you will hear that it's not only equal, but a lot better.
Correct. So since we're self-insured, obviously what we do is we take the current plan document, we submit it to the next third-party administrator. They just basically copy that plan document, adjudicate accordingly. So the services that were in the packet are services provided by the third-party administrator in terms of how they adjudicate claims and other, I'd say, like little add-on benefits that you could give to the employees, like the teledoc and that nature. But as it relates to the co-pays and the deductibles and co-insurance, that's all equal to and better than. That's guaranteed by the carriers.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Ryan, I just want to say that, I think the employees be very happy with Aetna because the teledoc program is a wonderful program, so nice job on choosing that.
Thank you.
Also, preventative exams. Can you expand a little bit about that? Because I know Aetna has a very cumbersome package when it comes to preventative examinations and doctors that specialize in preventing disease. So I believe they're going to be very happy with that, but can you expand upon that a little bit?
Yeah, so as it relates to the full insured marketplace, there is a whole gamut of programs that are offered. As it relates to the self-insured marketplace, it's different. Meritine is the adjudicator of claims. So all those additional benefits that you're describing are coming from the fully insured side.
Okay.
Those would be additional add-ons if we were to bring that into the marketplace for you guys.
Would we have the ability to bring that on?
Absolutely. We can get pricing on that for you.
Could you?
Yes,
That would be
absolutely. But I would also say you guys also have a very robust wellness package for your employees that does a very good job. I think that attributes to why your claims have been steady. I mean, year to year, you guys are either trending at a zero or negative medical increase. And you guys do have a coach that interacts with employees one-on-one 3 days a week for 6 to 8 minute sessions. And I think that's also a great thing you guys do. They do check the blood pressure, the body mass index, and not many public entities do that kind of work that you guys do.
One of the directions that we had received from the council and the mayor was in this budget, because of a big portion of our increase had to do with the health benefits. This was another reason why we brought and asked them to take a look at our third-party payer and to see where there could be additional savings. I mean, I'm going to just throw out a number that I believe it's close to, depending on what the add-ons are, but somewhere in the neighborhood of $190,000. Is that
Yep.
correct?
I'd also like to say this from a employee claims situation standpoint. So IDA, when claims come in, it's getting subbed out to AmeriHealth, it's getting subbed out to CHN, it's getting subbed out all over the place. So, employees do receive claim denials because of where the claim is processed. So with this, Meritane is owned by Aetna Healthcare. Wherever it gets mailed to, wherever the doctor submits, it's going to get processed in network, and it's going to get processed without a denial letter going out to the employees or the member or the dependents, because it's not where IDA. It's owned by Aetna Healthcare, where IDA is a subdivision, and it has all these leasing components, and it creates confusion for the doctors and so forth and the employees. So this is going to take away a lot of those claim issues that employees have been having.
I have a question. This 42.4, that is an additional cost for the 24/7 nurse, the teledoc, and the disease management for high risk on Meriton. This,
It's like the third paragraph down.
okay, third paragraph? Yes. Are we still going to be in the range of 149,000 that we will be saving
It was.
with these additional costs?
So I had it all. So it is so with teledoc and all that built in, disease management, everything in there, that is the 475 figure
475, 609.
versus the 624. That would be the difference.
Okay.
And we still
It's about
would be-
150,000.
We still would be in the 149 savings? Is that
Yes.
what you're telling me?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I think another thing that's going to be very important is also make sure you touch upon how, when if the council is supportive of this, when we move from IDA to the new third-party payer, how that works and how the payouts of what already exists, the pre-exist, the things that have already happened, how they'll be paid. And one of my, also when we met,
Oh, I know
I
what
think
you're saying.
Bloomfield, yeah, you've started with them already, so we should have a smooth
So,
transition.
yeah, I know what you're doing. So I guess what Ellen's referring to is, say, for example, we have someone who has ongoing treatments going on.
Yes.
And their physician's not within the Aetna US Healthcare Network. They would then fill out a transition of care. We would have 3 months of care for that person processed in-network at the in-network rates. And what would happen is Aetna would then recruit that physician to be within their Aetna US Healthcare Network. If they choose not to be part of the Aetna US Healthcare Network, then it would have to, at that point, either remain with that physician as an out-of-network benefit or choose a new physician at that point.
Yeah, that's what I was concerned about, that
Yeah.
transition.
Yeah, so that's standard with any carrier transition.
Okay.
So that's how that would apply. But I say 10 years ago, there was a lot of network disruption. We had more carriers. There was a different marketplace back then. Now, in today's times, the network overlaps typically 97, 98% between Horizon, Aetna, United Healthcare, and Cigna and all the major players.
All right, it's good then.
Yes.
Great. Any other questions, Ellen, council members? I do thank you for being here today
Yes, thank you.
and presenting this particular program. And it seems like it's going to be very beneficial and save the town money, and it'll be a easy transition. So, I think it's going in the positive direction.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Council.
Just one more thing, if I may.
Yes, Councilman.
Kudos to the administration for working this out.
Yeah.
Of course, we're going to give the administration's kudos. Ellen, thank you very
No,
much.
stop. No, anyway, one of the things that, while the union representatives are here, this is the folks coming out to describe it to the council, and I wanted you to have that opportunity. I think you said that you would, prior to the meeting, I guess on October, I guess it's 18th, the next meeting, that you might provide a meeting with the employee representatives. Would that be a possibility?
We love to have employee meetings. I think it's always good for the employees to see what they're getting, what's new, what are some new benefits that'll be at their disposal, especially Teledoc, 24/7 Nurse Center. These are things they don't have now, and to understand what those programs are, I think is very beneficial to them. So we would like to do a series of multiple meetings. And when we've done open enrollment meetings in the past, we've always been able to match up to the schedule of your employees. For instance, we've been at the DBW at 5:30 in the morning for enrollment meetings, presentations, and so forth. So we're willing to accommodate your schedules and the employee schedules.
Thank you for working with us.
Good.
Thank you.
Ryan. It's good.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
All right, anything else? Thank you again for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Council, thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care. All right, so that's good news for the town. All right, or business administrator, any other good news you want to give us?
Sorry, I was just so excited about that. Just an update on the pond.
Oh, the ponds, okay.
I know we have the pond. I'm going to use the mic, Lee. Without looking at my notes, you get the update report by Justin Lisa with regard to all the engineering. But I wanted to just give some additional input. Lots of things are coming to, a good end or a good resolve as we work together. And I think Mayor, I'm at the precipice of making an announcement with regard to the Matter Lake Dam, and that is that we have finally resolved all the engineering and permitting with the DEP, and just yesterday at the mayor's staff meeting, Justin reported that he'll be working with Mike Hardy, our purchasing agent, to finally go out to bid for that dam. So,
That's great.
so there's an end in sight on that one also. So, good news.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you.
You just said it.
We're going to go read, do you want to go read that now, the report?
Well, you got
We'll get to that. Okay. All right, our township attorney?
Gave you all my good news last week, Mr. Council
That's
President.
wonderful, thank you. Keep up with the good news
I
here.
have a question for a township attorney. John, if you can answer my question for me. In reference to what we had discussed last week in responsible bidder language, I looked into the Jersey City information that you had provided, and that was about tax abatements and about specific project labor agreements, and that's not really what I was alluding to. What I'm looking for is to put responsible bidder resolution in place. Have you had a chance to look at that yet?
Well, I mean, as I indicated, the issue of having some sort of responsible bidder ordinance, I do not recommend the resolution, and I think that would be a mistake. And the issue of responsible bidder ordinance is one that goes back quite a ways, and it consisted of many components, one of which was the ability of the township to require private developers to abide by that kind of law, which is the practice in other municipalities in the state, particularly larger ones like Jersey City and Newark, et cetera. There is also a public work component as well. Typically, those ordinances are combined, and we were waiting for the Jersey City case to be able to make progress on that. I can tell you that we are sort of knee-deep in that analysis to attempt to craft an omnibus ordinance that would work well for Parsippany. That process has been ongoing and has now intensified, and when I have something further to report, I will. I do not believe that will be too far in the future, but we will engage in discussions, and it requires a lot of coordination on our part as well with the administration and particular offices within the administration, particularly the engineer, the construction official, et cetera. It requires input from various stakeholders in that ordinance, from outside of township government as well. So we are interfacing with both key administration officials and stakeholders, as an attempt to put together an ordinance that will fulfill a public policy, desire that I know the administration and I suspect most of the council people have. And, I'll get back to you when I have something more concrete. I don't tonight. And, I don't have a time limit on it, but it will be soon. It's a priority.
Let me ask you a question about the resolution versus the ordinance. An ordinance is more of a law, but a resolution will have an opportunity to adopt that on an annual basis. So if it doesn't work out to our expectations, we can always amend it and include, an additional supplement in it.
A resolution.
Do you feel that resolution should be better, like East Hanover completed?
A resolution in this form of government, in this instance, is nothing more than a political statement. It has no legal effect.
Well, it's a supplement, actually, to our purchasing of it.
With all due respect to your knowledge of the law, I would say that is in this context, would be a political statement. If folks want to do something meaningful, then a meaningful thing to do would be to pass an ordinance that is carefully crafted to meet the needs of Parsippany. And that's what we're working on doing. In fact, I think a resolution could be very harmful, because a resolution may create an expectation that is not in fact the law that the administration would have to follow. And the result of that, in my opinion, would be more litigation, because now you would have to go out to publicly bid, and if the bids didn't comport with the resolution, which you wouldn't have to do, now you're going to have people saying, well, there's a resolution. Now you're going to have to litigate what effect the resolution may have had on a bid. So in my opinion, a resolution in this context would be nothing more than a political statement, and would likely have detrimental effects on the township in terms of promoting and certainly creating an environment ripe for litigation with regard to publicly bid contracts. And I'm not sure that that's where the direction you all want to go. So what I'm saying is that in the near future, I suspect that, we'll be coming forward with an ordinance, recommended for you to review and consider.
Thank you, John. I'd like to work with you on that. If we can work together, I would appreciate it. We can draft a fine piece of legislation that would actually support local jobs and create a safe working environment, not only for our residents that we're working near, but also the employees that are working for these companies as well.
And by the way, for the employees, for the companies, because I think this came up, but you should know that, Parsippany does abide by the prevailing wage law.
Yes, we have to.
Right. So any
Yes.
contract that goes out in excess of $15,444,
Yes.
there is a prevailing wage requirement. Parsippany in this administration goes beyond what many other municipalities do, because in the bids, we not only reference prevailing wage, we actually print the decision sheets and attach them to the bid.
Yes.
So that it is clear from the bid specification what the wages are that have to be paid. And Parsippany also requires certifications to be submitted, payroll certifications to be submitted by the contractors to evidence that the employees were paid prevailing wage.
Does that include the subcontractors?
All of that,
as well?
sure.
Everything.
All of that is
Wind up getting
subject to
put on the
Oprah.
list. Absolutely.
We have had on numerous occasions representatives from the State Department of Labor, as well as representatives, from private industry, private unions, make sure that Parsippany has adhered to these practices that are required under the law, and Parsippany goes further than that in terms of its compliance, which you are able to do in part because of your form of government, and with that having a qualified purchasing agent, and the right kind of staff to be able to manage that process in a municipality of this size. So on the prevailing wage part of it, the employees, to go to your point, I guess the short answer is state law covers it, but Parsippany goes over and above. One of the things that we're looking at in terms of an ordinance is to, as part of an ordinance effort, is to codify the this administration's state-of-the-art practices as it relates to ensuring prevailing wage compliance and incorporating that into the law of the town, so that it's not just the practice, but it becomes the law, so that it becomes enduring.
It's not a contradiction.
Yeah, we want to ensure that it creates also local jobs and it creates an apprenticeship as well.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I know that you made a comment in the paper the other day, which I take kind of personal effect to, where the negotiation that I did with Mr. Inglesino, Mr. DePiro, and the mayor in regards to the land deal, there was 15 changes in regards to that contract. Myself and Mr. DePiro,
I think
along
we're
with the
talking
mayor.
about responsible bidder
but
language. We're talking about.
Let me finish what I want to
changing
say.
the topic.
We sat there and went through 10 contracts to make sure we got the right deal for the town. And unfortunately, before we got on the council, there was other issues that were going on with that property that had to be taken care of. As a matter of fact, Mary Brzezicki had brought that up many times along with Mrs. Peterson. What I'm concerned about is, why are we in such a rush for this responsible bidder? And I want you to explain to me in great detail, since you brought this up, explain to the council, the mayor, the township attorney, and the public here, exactly what in great detail about responsible bidder. What is it that you know about it? And then what is it, why we are in such a rush to do this right now?
I wouldn't say a rush, but,
Well, no, we are in a rush, 'cause you brought up last
There's
week.
an urgency, actually,
There's an urgency,
to
okay.
protect our residents and to protect the employees
Protect
that
us from
work
what?
for the companies. Well,
From what?
there's been a
What's-
number of instances.
what's a responsible bidder language
Excuse me,
mean?
don't interrupt me.
I want to
okay?
know what it means.
Don't interrupt me. You asked a question, I'm going to answer
Answer
your
it.
question.
Okay, because I don't think you have any clue what it means.
Well, I have more of a clue
Okay,
than
let's-
you.
let's
okay?
go.
So,
Let's
what
go
I'm
with it.
saying
Come on.
to you is that there's been a number of instances, if you read your emails, of complaints by residents indicating that job sites were not properly protected from the children of the community.
Where is
that
this?
There is contaminated soil in certain places when road work was being done.
Where?
Well, there's emails that are copies to the
Tell us,
administration.
tell the public,
Well,
where?
Take a look at your.
So what does that have to do with responsible bidder language? Tell
Because
us.
we want to ensure that there's quality workmanship with the
I didn't get
bids that
these
are
emails.
taken.
Okay.
Well, then you should read your emails then.
But you
Maybe
also
respond
talked
to the
about the
residents at
apprentice
that point.
program. You brought that up last week about the apprentice
Absolutely.
program. Tell us about the apprentice program.
Basically, we want to create local jobs. We want to have people.
How is that
working-
creating local jobs, the apprentice program?
Well, we work with our school system, with the Morris County Voc Technical School, and I happen to be an advisory board member for them. And it's nice to see that there's young adults that are
That has,
entering.
the VOTEC has nothing to do with the apprentice program that would be put in place. Mr. Ingelotti had said a year ago to Mr. Karifi. Mr. Karifi brought this up a year ago. So all of a sudden, a year goes by, and you're all over this. So either somebody approached you about the apprenticeship program, okay, which you're not well versed on, okay, or I have no idea why you want to put the town in jeopardy. You talk about us in the paper the other day when we successfully received 125 acres from Mr. Mossberg, which is probably the toughest negotiator. We got a dam, we got a pond. But you weren't happy with the time that it took. I wish you only put that time and be involved in
Well,
that
I wish
deal,
you
which
would've
you had
included the entire
nothing to
council
do
as
with.
a
So
team that we
why
all
do you
worked
want
on this
to, why
as
do you
well.
want to rush Mr. Inglesino on this particular program where it could put the town in financial jeopardy? So I think that you need to go into a lot more detail with your research
Well, I think you need
before
to
you want to
follow
put
up
up a
as a council
resolution.
president to
He had
find out
told
when
you,
there's
our
things that are
township
not being
attorney had
done.
told you, a resolution means nothing in our form of government. So why do you keep bringing up
That is here
this
his
particular
opinion,
thing?
But if you did your research
Well,
on
no,
it, you
this
would
is
see other
this is
communities
our
have
township
resolutions.
attorney directing the town on what we should be doing.
Mr.
okay?
Valori, if you want to speak
Mr.
about this
Mr.
offline, I'd
Peluso,
be happy
you
to.
are
I am not
clueless
gonna
about the
argue
apprentice
with
program.
you in the
You are
public.
clueless
Can we move,
about
can
the
we,
resolution.
can we move on from this? Can we
Maybe
move on?
unprofessional,
Mr.
but I'm not
Inglesino.
going to go with you.
When you get all the details on it, then we'll discuss.
We are. Thank you, Mr. Council President.
Because
We're
we're just
working on
wasting
it.
time.
and
Safety
we'll-
of our
we'll-
community will move forward. Thank
That
you
has
very much.
nothing to do with our safety of our community.
It does when you're OSHA compliant.
Explain in detail how it's going to be a safety of our
I'll
community.
educate you after hours if you
No,
like.
I
Make an
think that you
appointment.
should
I'll be happy
educate
to
yourself
help.
first.
Come on.
Make an
Okay.
appointment, be professional.
Chief
work
Financial
as a
Officer,
team.
enough
And
of the
let me
nonsense
answer
with
your
you.
question about
Enough of the
the
nonsense
article.
with you. We're
You asked
stop.
me a question,
Chief
I'm gonna
Financial
continue
Officer,
if you
no,
do
you're
not
not.
overrule me.
Chief
Oh,
Financial Officer, I
will.
overrule
You
you.
don't overrule me.
Yes.
When you ask me a question, I'm asking you a question.
CFO, please
The
go.
point of the matter is that
You
you
are
have to
embarrassing
work
yourself
as a
right now.
team and include
You are
everybody.
embarrassing yourself right now.
You're an embarrassment
CFO,
as well.
please go forward.
As needed, I will report.
This nonsense with this apprentice
It
program.
is nonsense. All of a sudden,
Go.
you're fighting with the
CFO.
mayor for 2 years, and all of a sudden you're fighting with your fellow councilors.
No, because I'm realizing
Okay,
how.
I have nothing to report at this time.
Keep
Realizing
going.
You don't have a clue. I'll educate you, don't worry about it.
Yeah,
We'll sit down.
you're the last one to educate me.
Make an appointment.
All right, and go.
She has nothing.
What is nonsense here? Go.
She has nothing.
She has
You have
nothing.
nothing to
No, she has
report?
no report. No
Nothing,
report.
Okay.
nothing to report. I'll deal with it at the time.
No report. No report, Mr. President.
Great. Mr. Karifi, engineer report?
Okay, Manor Lake Dam, I believe that was already covered by Mrs. Sandman. The FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Project, elevation work on phases 4, 5, and 6 is almost complete. The closings on the two properties are scheduled for the second week in October. We anticipate closing on the third property in November. No council action required. Lower Rockaway River Disnagging Grant, all work has been completed. The contractor removed nearly 2,000 cubic yards of wood waste from the river. No council action required. GWI 20 East Halsey, CO GTJ REIT Inc. Performance Guarantee Release, Block 737, Lot 11. The developer completed all site work in accordance with the approved plans. Inspections were made during the course of construction, and the office has no objection to the release of the performance guarantee in the form of a letter of credit. A resolution will need to be adopted by the Township Council, so if we can add that.
Yes.
Great.
And 250 Realty Group LLC, Paul Miller Porsche Performance Guarantee Release, Block 411, Lot 20. The developer completed all site work in accordance with the approved plans. Inspections were made during the course of construction, and this office has no objection to the release of the performance bond. Again, a resolution will need to be adopted by the Township Council.
We'll place one on the agenda.
I
Thank
think
you.
it's already on the agenda.
I think it's on there already, right?
It's on there, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's all, Paul?
That's it, yeah.
Great, thank you. Bids to be taken.
Council
me,
President,
Councilman Valori.
did you
Yes.
skip over committees and reports?
F?
Oh, okay. Any committees and reports? Thank you.
I just want to make a comment.
Mr. Shapiro, did you want to?
Well, let Mr. Paluso go
Okay, go.
first.
I just wanted to congratulate the Kiwanis Greater Parsippany tonight, installation of their officers. We wish them the best from the council and the administration as well. Thank you.
Mr. Shapiro?
Okay, last year I tried to resolve a student parking problem at Parsippany High School.
Yes, yes.
And my efforts to get some spaces at the Bowlesby DeGelke House did not come to fruition. We're approaching winter now. We have students at the high school. I would like to recommend that the administration implement a no parking one side of the street on Twin Oaks and Twin Oaks Court, which was suggested a year and a half ago, but I thought my other solution would have worked, and it hasn't. So we need the no parking before snow, so that trucks can get down the road. We don't have cars parked on both sides of the street.
What I will do is I will speak to the chief in the traffic division. They usually, although we talk about one side of the street parking, very rarely do they agree with one side of the street parking, the police department. I will get more details on that, but I get what you're saying. Twin Oaks, it gets crazy, and I don't know, we don't want to ticket these kids, but eventually, we may have to do enforcement more than anything. The problem, I think, that if the schools could really give them an area to park, it would be a lot easier, but if we can work it out where it's one side of the street parking, I'm sure we will try our best, Council.
One of the discussions from the police department last year was, we implemented no parking on Ferran Drive several years earlier.
Right.
And all that did was move the problem from Ferran Drive to Twin
Yes.
Oaks. And if we implement no parking on both sides of the street at Twin Oaks,
Right.
the problem will move again. It will not be solved. We're not solving a problem. We're moving it.
Yeah, I know.
So my suggestion for one side of the street parking, I'd like to see it, one side of the street parking on Ferran Drive and one side on Twin Oaks and Twin Oaks Court. So that way the kids can park someplace.
No, that's reasonable.
Right.
And that's what I would recommend to the administration.
And I'll do that. Just one area, though.
The school board hasn't addressed the problem of their own students, so, and we're getting the complaints from the residents, so
Yeah.
we're not doing the school board's job, we're addressing the residents' problem.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Good point. Thank you.
Mr. President?
Yes, thank you.
Parsippany Library will be celebrating 10 years, an anniversary of 10 years, and they will be having an event on November the 4th.
November 4th?
And I think it's a worthwhile event to go to. The cost is reasonable. There will be a silent auction. You will have refreshments. And I hope that some of my council members will go, as also the residents of the township.
Absolutely.
Loretta?
Yes.
I think this would be good coming from you, the ribbon cutting at the.
Yes, thank you, thank you. NIPD New Jersey will be having a ribbon cutting for the Asperger's Skill Building Network in Parsippany on Wednesday, October the 19th, 2016. This is an organization that Davy Willens, and I know many of you know Davy Willens, is very much involved. And I am so glad that I was on this council when this was presented and we approved this building. The event will occur, it's from 2 to 4 p.m., and it's at the Park Center, 1100 Knoll Road. It's across the way from the Knoll East Golf Course. And if you guys can come out, any of you,
absolutely.
please, it's
Great cause.
it is. It's going to be marvelous. Thank you so very much, Ellen. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Loretta. Paul, anything to report?
No.
Okay. Another reports? Okay, great. We're going to go into the public hearing. I'd like to entertain a motion to open up the public hearing.
Make a motion.
Motion made by Mr. Karifi, second by Mr. Paluso. Roll call.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Okay, floor is open.
Great. Anybody from the public to come forward? You got 3 minutes. If you could state your name and then sign in, we greatly appreciate it.
This is a question. Do you want the statement from the Historic Preservation Advisory Committee now or at the end of that resolution public hearing?
Whatever is going to be easier for you. I mean, I have no problem either way.
Okay, I'll read it now.
Okay.
I'm standing here.
Do you have anything else besides that, or?
Yeah, well, but I'd rather read this first.
Okay.
So,
All right.
This actually is not my statement. This is a statement written by Nancy Brighton. I'm the secretary of the committee. Nancy was in her calendar. She was going to be here on Tuesday.
Okay.
She's in Montreal now. She has a very heavy travel schedule. So.
Can you state your name for the record?
Yeah, Julia Peterson reading for Nancy Brighton. Okay. On behalf of the Historic Preservation Advisory Committee, I would like to thank Mayor Barbario, Ellen Sandman, John Inglesino, I better put my glasses down, and the entire council, President Valori, Vice President Paluso, Mr. Karifi, Mr. DePiero, and Mrs. Grignani, for their efforts to finalize the transfer of the Forge Pond and Dam Pond property to the town. For nearly 30 years, previous mayors and town councils have tried to enforce prior commitments and agreements, only to be stonewalled. Since its inception in 2003, the committee has put this property on its agenda, meeting with the New Jersey DEP, members of the council, and we provided the council with copies of documents related to both the historical significance of the Forge Pond and Dam and the record associated with the history of the agreements for its transfer. The committee feels we helped keep this issue alive on the council's agenda for 30 years. The Forge Pond and Dam represent some of the most visible remains of 18th century Troy Village, part of the earliest development of what would become Parsippany. The dam blocked Troy Brook to power a water wheel that operated the Forge's hammer. Remains of the wheel race and anvil, in addition to the dam and pond, are still present on the northern downstream side of the dam. The committee greatly appreciates everyone's commitment to see this through to a successful resolution. The acquisition of this property is important to the preservation of sites key to the early history of our town. As we go forward, the committee wants to continue to share information regarding the physical remains of the pond, dam, and associated features, and looks forward to working with you on the preservation and maintenance of this extremely important site. Thank you.
Great. Anything else? You still have some time left.
I have some time left. It's really hard when you change your meetings from Tuesdays to Thursdays. I'm sure you had a wonderful
Yes,
reason.
we had a reason for that.
Marvelous reason.
Okay.
Yes.
But it meant that various of us missed our grandson's birthday parties, our son's openings, all kinds of things like that.
We're
Actually,
going to have another meeting until we got the pond and the Forge.
Yeah, that was.
No, I'm
that
only
was-
kidding.
No, no. No, unfortunately, we had an administrative issue that we had to take care of. It was important.
This microphone.
I want to go on record as to thank you. You're right. I mean, I'm only here a short time, but I know I've been to many a meeting under the obligation of what I do as the role of a business administrator. But I want to say that your tenacity, sometimes with a smile, sometimes without. But I did receive, you sent me lovely pictures, which I left on my desk. Saw them every day to say, you know, we got to get this done. And, well, there was a lot of heavy lifting.
Yeah.
And I think everybody can pat themselves on the back and say, you know, you did it, you did it, you know, you did it. So thank you guys.
Actually, a lot of people did it.
A lot of people did it.
And I'm just grateful I don't have to die.
Oh, please. Thank you for being here. How are you, sir?
Randy Tortorello, the township attorney,
You're a township attorney?
the township historian would like his 2 cents put in, and I read better than trying to do it, obviously.
Take your time.
All right,
Among friends.
just getting older. Over 25 years ago, I was brought down a wooded lane to a place that astounded me. There in front of me was a forge keeper's house built in the 1730s with a magnificent pond behind it. I had been on most of the streets around this property, but never knew what was hidden behind them. A beautiful, serene area, almost untouched by modern man. I was told the stories of the families that ran the forge and the history associated with them. This was the farthest eastern forge in New Jersey and had been in operation for over 130 years. The Cobb family and later the Smith family were responsible for the products made from this forge, from pig iron sent to England to be made into utensils and sold back to the colonists, to iron nails and cups used during the colonists' revolution and iron items used during the Civil War. These are dedicated ancestors that made it possible for us to be here today and free from tyranny. This is one small spot that has contributed to America's greatness. Now, finally, we will all be able to experience its wonder. This is why I and many others knew it was important to save this historic area. It is with gratitude that the community recognizes everyone who fought so long and hard for this amazing property. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
If I may respond, because
Yes, you
this
may.
is important. I get to deal with Randy on a daily basis, not just that, since I became the mayor, between him and Mayor Brzezicki. This is something that I told Randy, we will get it. I said, we're going to get it. I don't know when, but we're going to get it. And
You got the job done.
there's a lot of things as a mayor you don't want to do, but sometimes you have to push the button to do it. And I believe that's what finally got us to the table. But Randy, I told you from day one, we're going to get that pond and that land, so.
More ways than one. Okay. Mary Przicki, 273 Marcella Road. I'd like to reiterate our thanks for all the work that you people did do to ensure Forge Pond and that area be saved. It took 4 administrations to get the job done, and this team did it. And we're eternally grateful for that, I have to say. And I want to give extra special thanks to Ellen Sandman, because she gave us the confidence that it will get done when we kept asking for it. Michael DiPiero, you were here an awfully long time on the planning board when it would come through and say, why isn't it done?
This has
And
been
it
a
got
30-year
done.
effort on my part.
30-year effort. The other part is if you don't remember, Jamie, that when we first established the historic committee, you were our council liaison. So you took it from its little baby infancy to its present ending, which is, I applaud you all. So thank you again, all right, for that. Do I still have time?
Thank you, Mary. Of course you have time.
Well, this is
Anything
good.
for you.
Yeah, good Lord, I'm going to go out of here with a big head. We do have a problem in the Lake Parsippany area.
Oh, here it goes.
What are you going to
We
do?
were on a high note for a second.
You really were, but that, what are you going to do?
got
This
10
mouth is,
seconds.
oh, geez,
10
10 seconds. Okay, really fast. When the LPPOA puts out information that no tax dollars are used to maintain Lake Parsippany, and they just did on page number, I think it's 5, the fact of the matter is that I do believe that the township gives the benefit of my tax dollars in the maintenance of the dam, the dike, the spillway bridge, the retention basins. So without the dam, there wouldn't be a lake. And they have to realize, too, that without the storm drain water, there wouldn't be a lake. We figured that out a long time ago, okay? Now, they're spreading information that is not correct, because my tax dollar and everyone else's tax dollar goes into the maintenance of that lake. And dam repair is the biggest expense a lake has. So I do believe recently that you just spent $400,000 on the dike, and they make no reference to that when they want to enforce this fair share assessment. And those tax dollars are my fair share assessment. So is that correct that you do maintain those facilities?
Yes,
That you do clean out the retention basins to improve the water quality?
That was the deal the township made with the LPPOA years ago.
80s, 83.
When we had the road runoff go into the lake, that we would put those detention basins and we would clean them out.
And do they still own the dam and the say spillway bridge, or do you people have an easement on it where you have more control than they do, or what?
10 seconds, Mary. So
Oh,
that was
too
last
bad.
question.
Okay, but that's a question.
No, he'll answer, Mr.
Okay.
But Mayor, what I can do is I can get you the answer to that.
Right.
I do know we did the dike, and like Mike said, Councilman said that, all the runoff off this town, runoff, and we took responsibility back in the 80s. But I'll get you the answer on,
I'd appreciate it, because on October the 19th, they are going to have a vote on this, and 300 members only will decide the fate of 2,204 residential properties, which is disgusting, because that's only 0.25% of the people who live there.
Mary, as you know, for many, many years, the township has had the philosophy that we do not want to see any of the lake associations go broke. Because if they go broke, then we have to maintain full responsibility.
Correct.
And liability. So we have helped, in one way or another, all of the lake associations, Intervale, Rainbow Lakes, Lake Parsippany, and if we ever find Lake Hiawatha, we'll take care of that one. But
You
we've
want
had
that
that
doing that.
obligation to try to help the lake associations stay afloat.
Right, right. I appreciate that, too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Mr. Council President, if I may, Mary and Julia, I wanted to thank you two both in particular with regard to the township's efforts to acquire the Forge Pond Dam property. As you know, this developer is quite the negotiator, and one of his techniques
Yes, he is.
that he never stops negotiating, and he tries to wear you down. And so when you get to like version 15, 16, and 17 of a contract, because his negotiating technique is to take longer, renegotiate, and renegotiate, any thought that I had of wearing down at the negotiating table was quickly vanished when I visioned you two ladies in the audience. And I thought, what in God's name are they going to say if we don't succeed in this effort? So it was your vision that gave at least me the proper inspiration to see this all through.
Thank you, Mary.
I just want, I'm sorry, Sabina, I know. Yeah, where do you have to go, right? She's just back from Vegas, so relax for a moment. Now, what I wanted to say is thank you for the special thank you, but uniquely to each one of the people that are up here and out there, everybody played a part. Who had to come in strong, who had to give an extra hug to Mr. Mossberg. Just to, sometimes, and I'll say this, Mr. Mossberg, sometimes it was going to be around the neck. But anyway, I say that affectionately. This is a wonderful evening that we should bask a little bit in the sun. And we all played a part, and we all played a great part. And I got to tell you, I remember getting phone calls. I was at a dinner for somebody's birthday, and Lou was driving up from the shore and saying, "I can't believe it, he's changing this and he's changing that." So you have no idea, it was not an easy lift. It was a heavy lift. The attorney is talking about the multiple times that we had to change the agreement. And then in his sense of humor, he always has a big shopping bag or a big bag, and he says, "I know we're settling all these other lawsuits, but I have another one pending." So, we laugh now because we've had a great victory, but it is not an easy time. But today we can all smile and put our heads up high and say we all did good by our residents, and we all did good by the spirit of Parsippany. And this is a beautiful place with beautiful people, and I'm very happy to be a part of it. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public like to come forward? You can state your name and sign, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, Sabina Vermont, 343 Marcella Road.
Okay.
I have a question about that meeting that's going to be held on October 19th. Like Mary said, the only people that are going to be there are the people that are going to benefit from this tax that they want to put on the rest of us. I know it's only $115 a year, but that's this year. Next year, they're going to decide, well, we need to do this, we need to do that, and then the tax goes up. This is a lake that we were not allowed to join when we moved up here when I was just a child. My mom had 5 kids, wanted to join the lake. They told her, we're not part of the lake community. This is a lake that when I parked my car by the one of the slots they had early in the morning, nobody out, a security person came up to me and told me I have to move my car, I'm not part of the lake community. Now, they have no problem with telling me I am now a part of the lake community, and I have to pay $115 a year, which I do not agree with. Why are we not allowed to go to this meeting to voice our opinion? These people are going to vote yes because it benefits them. It does not benefit the rest of us, and it's not fair. I never heard of such a, how is that even legal? I have no clue, and I don't think it's right. I think somebody should step in and say something. And also, when I was reading these papers that Mary was so kind to drop off to me, it says that our money can go to administration fees, insurance costs, and security. Well, administration fees, which if you look at their budget is quite high. Insurance costs, what is the insurance? Is the insurance for around the lake? Is it insurance for the people who are the administration? I don't know the answer to that question. And security, is that the guard that came by and told me I couldn't park my car, that we're paying him also? I mean, I just don't think it's fair. I'm not going to pay it. They're probably going to arrest me at one point because that's what they're saying they are able to do. I'm not going to pay it just for the principle of the thing. Plus, there are many people around the lake. It's a very small community. There's a lot of old homes, and there's a lot of senior citizens that live there that can't even afford to pay money for heat, and they're going to tax them $115 more a year. It's a lot of money for some people, and it's just not fair. And it's not fair that we don't have a voice. We cannot talk about it. We're not allowed in any of their meetings. It's just, somebody should really look into it. I just don't think it's fair, and I just want the township to be aware of that.
All right,
Thank
you have 30 seconds left. Any other questions?
No, that's it.
Okay, John, maybe anything that you want to?
Not a tax, it's assessment.
No.
There is no.
It's an easement, you're right. But whatever it is, it's not fair.
Okay, thank you.
So even if they don't live in Lake Parsippany, they're going to be taxed?
Nicholas Helmiak, Lake Hiawatha. What isn't fair is we've been robbed at 2 minutes because we should, under certain circumstances, unless there's a mob here, be allowed our 5 minutes. So I don't understand that. Hey, great, we got Forge Pond. But what I don't like about the deal is everything was lumped into the deal, the 700 Mountain Way. I happened to listen to the recording on the 27th, the special meeting. So I would have to say this town should invoke the Environmental Rights Act, because according to what Mr. Inglesino said, even if the zoning board doesn't give the developer the ordinance that he wants, once again, we're going to lose the steep slope ordinance, we're going to rezone it anyway. So is our master plan a resolution? Is it a law? What is it? I mean, it doesn't seem to have any validity. And here's the public housing came into the 700 Mountain Way. And steep slopes, 15% or more, which Parsippany has, is off limits to public housing. There's several environmental criteria that puts public housing off the scoreboard for developers. We're not recognizing that. And I'd like to say something very brief in Mr. Peluso's favor. Now, the only thing I could think of when he said about the 3 years, during that time that the Forge Pond thing was going on and the water view and everything, we began conformance, Highlands, in November 2009. We got out July 2014. Look at Parsippany's ordinance, how it would have been enforced. It would have been made better for the taxpayers and the developers. The responsibilities would have been greater for them. They would have been more responsible to us in our environment. We have low environmental self-esteem in this town because we don't consider environmental issues. We consider tax rateables, and that is wrong. And Forge Pond is good, but throwing in the 700 Mountain Way and everything, I'm sorry, that's just wrong. And it's like, you want to put a guy on base, but you still got to throw the 4 pitches. So why don't we just skip the variance meeting and just let the developer do what he wants to do.
10 seconds, Nick. Any other questions?
All right, but
Well, we're going to let Mr. Inglesino respond back.
congratulations to the Ford Pond, but if we would have stuck with this, we probably could have got the 130 acres.
Okay.
So,
All right.
all right.
John?
Sure. Well, Mr. Homiak, you're correct that a portion of the settlement agreement did address the developer's project over at 700 Mountain Way. This was an omnibus settlement agreement that addressed all current disputes, and I underline the word current, disputes between the township and this developer, but they were not all interrelated. And I think it's important to point out that the Forge Pond settlement really stands by itself and relates back to a June 2013 settlement, as well as payment from the developer to the township. The township received $600,000 in addition to receiving the property, which is
to the original 350,000.
which is
Nick, let him finish up.
which is.
Thanks.
I went to law school, and math isn't my strong suit, but I think that's about $250,000 more than the original $350,000 that was agreed to, so the deal got better. Now, as part of the same agreement, but unrelated to Forge Pond, was a settlement with regard to 700 Mountain Way. That settlement was motivated not by Forge Pond, it was motivated by Parsippany's Mount Laurel obligation to provide its fair share of low and moderate income housing. And the entity that we settled with, the 700 Way Mountain entity that we settled with, actually intervened in the township's Mount Laurel litigation. And so we've now settled with that developer. That's one intervener down. We have some more to go. So I wanted to make the point that although you brought those two things up in the same context, and while they are part of the same agreement, they are really not related, except for the fact that they were part of an omnibus resolution of disputes between this developer and the municipality. But the lawsuits themselves were not related in terms of having the same consideration. There were also other unrelated litigations that were settled at all. So Forge Pond stands on its own merits, and 700 Mountain Way stands on its own merits, but it was not because the township wants to promote development on environmentally sensitive areas or steep slopes or anything of the like. It was in recognition of the fact that the township has and is going to have a significant affordable housing obligation. And so the strategy there is to try to, per the court's direction, is to negotiate with interveners. And we've been ordered by the court to negotiate in good faith with all of the interveners, including the developer, 700 Mountain Way, to try and come to a resolution so that we can satisfy that obligation. And that was the motivation. It wasn't to degrade the environment or show insensitivity to the environment. It was to fulfill a constitutional obligation, which I will grant you is arguably incongruent with, or at odds with, or at cross purposes with, or whatever phrase you want to use, with the environment. But, Parsippany is one municipality in a state that too many times has pit affordable housing interests against environmental interests and against the will of the community. And it's the job of this governing body, with input from its professionals, to try and sort those conflicting interests, those conflicting directives out in a way that best serves the community. And a lot of times it's not perfect, but it's the best that we can get under the circumstances.
If you'll allow me, just one thing. The Highlands conformance, sir, they have a memorandum of understanding with the Water Protection Act and the Affordable Housing. It's still in effect. And that landscape would have been inappropriate for the housing. And I'm sure of it. If we would have adhered to our taxpayers and our master plan, And if you could just answer one more thing and I'll sit down.
Nick, I gave you
All
beyond
right.
your 5 minutes, so I'm being good to you tonight.
Thank you, sir. Is our master plan just a resolution? And I'll sit down.
Well, the township's master plan is just that. It's a master plan that's passed by the planning board pursuant to the municipal land use law. And it's not just a resolution, it has legal import, as described under the statute. And, that master plan is to be adhered to or amended. But we also have a housing plan, housing element and fair share plan that we have to pass as well. And, again, it goes back to, the state, preserve the environment, got to provide affordable housing, community will. A lot of times, particularly in a state like this that is so populated, a lot of time those interests don't always flow together. And it's the tough job of the governing body to try and balance those interests in a way that in the overall scheme promotes a greater public good. And that's the effort. So understand you're not 100% happy. Sorry about that, but I do want you to understand, the rationale behind the settlement, and to understand that these decisions are more complex than, maybe some folks think at first blush.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Yeah, it's Jerry Manning, Rainbow Lakes. In the past few months, we've had a few recommendations, proposals for an environmental commission. Well, if there's one thing we don't need in Parsippany, is a commission of appointed wingnuts telling us how to live our life. We have an environmental recommendation committee that does very well here in this town. So let's leave that commission off the table. That doesn't work. Recently, one of the original founders of global warming over 50 years ago, a professor from Harvard, admitted that it was all a hoax, and he wanted to apologize to the scientific community for all of the proposals that they made, because they weren't based on science. They were based on consensus, which is nothing more than a group of guys sitting around in a coffee shop agreeing that it might rain tomorrow. That's a consensus. And that's all global warming morphed into climate change, and that's all it is. Climate change is going to happen. It has been happening for centuries, and it's going to continue to happen, period. And recently on TV, we saw another movie star, Leonardo DiCaprio. I've never seen him, but they claim he's good. I don't know how good he is. But he got into the environmental movement. And he himself tripped over his own words in the presentation that he made at a United Nations Council on the Environment. He admitted it's a consensus. There is no settled science attached to global warming, climate change. There's no settled science. Let's get off the topic. We're wasting time putting up with it here.
1 minute, Jerry.
Well, I have a suggestion.
Yes.
Relative to Mr. Horniak and that other nut, Jeffy, what's his name, Titwhistle from the Sierra Club?
I'm not sure who that is.
Tittle.
We really don't need they seem to be very happy living in their impervious cover, but they don't want anyone else to have one. And until Mr. Horniak burns his house down and goes and lives in a tent, I don't want to hear about rechargeable water tables, period.
10
Thank you
seconds,
for
Jerry.
your time. My time is up.
Yes. And Jerry, I'm going to make a suggestion that I'm going to take you and Nick out. We'll have a cup of coffee and we'll discuss
Let's
this.
make a consensus.
Yes, we'll have a consensus.
And
Thank you.
by the way, Mr. Council President, I didn't mean to say that Jeff Tittle is I forget the word he used, wingnut. I knew who he was trying to refer to, so I wanted to.
Thank you for all that energy. Okay.
Hi.
Next.
Katie Cassidy, 7 Stephen Terrace. Just a couple of things before I get into what I really want to talk about. The ordinance 2016-25 says certain undeveloped land located in the township. I wanted a little clarification on what the certain land was. And then also with the performance guarantee of Paul Miller Porsche, have you guys looked into whether or not they put in the sidewalk that they are required to put in? Because last I heard from the zoning board, one of the boards, I think it was planning board, they were waiting on that, and they haven't quite finished their obligation with the sidewalk. So I would just double check on that.
So you got 2 questions so far. What else you got?
I got a lot. So first of all, I just want to, I do want to say that I am very excited to hear about what's going on with Forge Pond. I think we're all vehemently in agreement that the township needs the property, the township needs the dam, and it's absolutely wonderful. However, I am concerned in some respects. As you guys know, I try to be involved. I try to come to all the meetings, and unfortunately, I was unaware, and I assume a lot of the public was also unaware of the special meeting that occurred on the 27th of September. I did watch the meeting online, and I was upset to see that there was no public portion of the meeting. And to this day, the calendar shows absolutely no mention of the meeting. While you guys did follow the letter of the law of the Sunshine Act, I don't feel like you met the spirit of it. Now, the council has been very cautious with implementing new policies, for example, with regard to the trees in the right-of-way. The council is making sure to take time to get all the facts before they pass a resolution or an ordinance in that regard. But my question is, why isn't there more caution exercised with addressing the settlement issue? If you want to talk about opening Pandora's box, committing to pass a resolution that would circumvent any board is just plain bad policy. The zoning board exists to consider these applications and is the township's expert authority on zoning policies. To ignore the recommendation of the zoning board is to disregard the tools of the township. However, not telling the zoning board at all is negligence. And the zoning board did not know about the settlement until yesterday at their October 5th meeting when I informed them of the settlement. Highlighting the Forge Pond aspect of the settlement is deceptive to the public. It diverts attention from, like you said, the complexity of the issue.
10 seconds.
Is this a trick or treat? As I recall, the township was objecting to the Mountain Way application and they are now willing to accept it as it is. Has the council looked into the Mountain Way application? I can tell you a lot about it. They want 3 or 4 times the height of the retaining wall that's allowed there. Parsippany has plenty of townhomes, and New Jersey is honestly, it's losing citizens far greater than any other state in the nation. My question for you guys is, First of all, if Forge, everybody got extra time, so I'm going to take a little extra. If Forge Pond is unrelated to all these individual settlements, why are you lumping together? And what does it cost to settle this litigation?
Okay, that's your time.
Legal fees, reputation, but really it's the integrity.
Answer the question, please. Your time is up. Sit down. You have to abide like everybody else. John, if you want to follow up.
Sure, a couple things. First of all, the ordinance that you asked about is the ordinance that would be passed to accept the Forge Pond deed. Legally, the council has to pass an ordinance in order to accept and convey real estate, so that's what that's all about.
Just the Forge Pond deed?
Yes. Number 2, in terms of the Zoning Board of Adjustment, the Zoning Board of Adjustment is an independent board under the law. The council appoints the members of the board, but it's its own independent board. It is there to consider applications that do not conform with the township's ordinances, and it is also there to, as you alluded to make determinations as to whether or not a particular zone project application conforms to a zone or not, to make a zoning determination. But in the settlement agreement, which is appropriately and correctly drafted, the council does not tell the Zoning Board of Adjustment how to determine an application that is before it. The 700-way application, which is before the zoning board, will be determined on its merits by the zoning board without the town council telling it what to do. And the agreement is very clear in that regard. Now, the agreement is also clear in that if the zoning board denies the application, that the council has agreed, as I indicated, to pass an ordinance that would permit that project. And it is doing that under the guise of affordable housing, because they've also agreed, council has, to include the 700 Mountain Way property in the township's housing element and fair share plan, which again, as I indicated previously, is motivated not by the township's desire to overdevelop, but rather for the township's desire to settle Mount Laurel litigation that is ongoing and significant, not only here in Parsippany, but in many municipalities across the state. And so it is trying to balance these at times competing but important public interests in a way that, on the whole, best serves the public. And so the judgment was made that in this context, that 700 Mountain Way would be included in the township's housing element and fair share plan. And that will happen whether or not the Zoning Board of Adjustment approves or denies that application. That application is going to go before the Zoning Board of Adjustment the way it does. And yes, in light of that, it would be inappropriate and hypocritical for the township to continue objecting to an application on a project that it has agreed to include in its housing element fair share plan. And so what we did was follow the directive of Judge Hansberry and negotiate with this developer relative to a housing plan that was proposed not only before the Zoning Board of Adjustment, but also proposed to the township separately as part of the Mount Laurel litigation. And the judge has indicated and ruled that for developers who want to pursue affordable housing plans, and one thing you didn't mention was that this project will have an inclusionary component specifically laid out in the agreement. 15% of the rentals will be low and moderate income housing, and 20% of the fee simple units will be low and moderate income housing, thereby greatly assisting the township in fulfilling its constitutional responsibility to provide for its fair share of low and moderate income housing. And that's a point that you missed, but it is a central point of the basis for the township to have reached that agreement. And so what I was saying was the judge has said you can pursue an affordable housing plan through the litigation, and if a developer wants to, a developer can also pursue an affordable housing plan by way of application for a use variance before a Zoning Board of Adjustment. And so this developer was following both paths, as the judge said the developer could do. The council's responsibility is to deal with it in the context of the affordable housing litigation, which is exactly what it did, and it did so appropriately. The council cannot determine what the Zoning Board of Adjustment does or doesn't do in regards to that application. And that's what the agreement spelled out, and it spelled it out clearly, correctly, and appropriately. And I hope that helps provide some insight to you, because I don't want you to. I understand some of this stuff is hard to make sense of because it's a complicated system. But that's the reason why it's laid out the way it is in the agreement. We can't tell the Zoning Board of Adjustment what to do. And I acknowledge and agree that the issue does appear complex when you have the same project, if you will, or application being pursued in two different venues, the litigation and the Zoning Board. And by the way, what the judge does is we were ordered to sit down and negotiate these particular projects with developers. And so there is that review that doesn't happen in the public domain. It happens administratively with professionals as part of a settlement negotiation to a litigation. And so that happens on one track, and then the project of the application is also considered in public as part of a zoning board application. Two different processes, and that's why the agreement provides for the way it does.
All right, John, your 3 minutes is up. Thank you.
I feel like I'm teaching class.
Okay, anybody else from the public like to come forward? I'd love to have you a second time around, but I'm going to take you and Jerry out for coffee. All right, I see no one else to come forward. I'm going to close this portion. I'd like to entertain a motion to close the public
Make a
hearing.
motion.
Motion made by Mr. Karifi, second by Mr. Paluso. Roll call.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Okay, floor is closed.
Okay, we're going to start off with ordinances here. Statuses of adopted ordinance. Ordinance number 2016:23 was adopted on September 20th this year. Mayoral's action took place on the 21st of September, and the effective date will be October 18th, 2016. Ordinance number 2016:24. It was adopted on September 20th of this year. Mayoral's action was September 21st. The effective date will be October 18th, 2016. And the second reading and public hearing ordinance number 2016:25. You want to take a moment to look at that? All right, introduction, none. Non-consent agenda resolution, Mr. DePiero, 2016-166.
Resolution 2016-166. Resolution of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, allocating additional money from the Municipal Affordable Housing Trust Fund to Community Hope, Inc., and requesting court approval of an amended Municipal Affordable Housing Trust Fund spending plan. Motion to approve the above resolution.
Second, Grignani.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, second by Mrs. Grignani. Roll call.
Before I take roll, I just want to note that this resolution will go in place of Resolution 2016-164 that was passed last meeting. It was a clerical error as to the amount, so...
It's a minor change there?
Minor change, so it was...
Well, the amount's changed, so this resolution will supersede the one that was
Okay.
previously passed.
Exactly.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Motion is passed.
Great, thank you. Consent agenda, the resolutions. We have 13 of them there. Take a moment to go over them. If you have any questions, concerns. I see that we have none. Applications, none. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Carriffy, second by Mr. Paluso. Roll call.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
We're adjourned.
Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
It's okay.